One of the most important parts of the guest experience is the onboarding process and then the guest farewell. But how can hosts do it in such a way that it enhances the experience for the guest, but it does not give them a million things to do or to remember? And how can it be done effectively so it really gets the guest excited about their stay and desperate to come back for more? Welcome to episode 52. Glamping and unique holiday rentals are surging in popularity with the growing desire of customers to book holidays that deliver an experience. They are also the new business of choice for those wanting to improve their work-life balance. So how do you build a strong business like this that gives you the life you need and a great investment? I'm Sarah Riley, and I want to share what I've discovered after being immersed in this industry for over 20 years to inspire you to find out more about what's going on. Welcome. This is the business of glamping and unique holiday rentals. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Andy, for joining me today. It's really great to have you on the podcast again. It's something that we've been talking about a lot recently in my Startup and Grow Club, which is about enhancing the guest experience. And for me, it's something that goes beyond just the guest stay in the immediate term. It's about connecting to them. It's about building a long-term relationship with them so they'll come back time and time again. As we know, that's the cheapest way to get your guest and the most efficient and profitable way of getting your guest. But it also means that because they know what to expect and they know what you do and they really like you, you're much more likely to get great reviews. You're going to have a better experience with them and them with you. So we've been talking a lot, you and I, about the guest onboarding experience. And I know that it's something that a lot of people don't even understand what that term is. And not just the onboarding, but the guest farewell as well. And many owners don't understand that actually this is something they need to be building into their guest experience, as well as the experience they have on the ground when the guest arrives and then they leave. It's also something that they need to be building into their online experience. So as a kind of a first step, can you explain a little bit about what onboarding is for anyone who hasn't heard of the term?
Well, firstly, thank you for having me back. I always enjoy our conversations. Onboarding, you're right. It's the process immediately after I've parted with my money, or at least put down a deposit or a significant chunk of money to come and stay with you. And it's one of the things that I've consistently seen over the years that hospitality professionals, despite the word professional, aren't necessarily great at. And I know the good ones are brilliant at it, but I know the vast majority of people sort of half do it. And it's that journey that kicks in right after I've made that reservation, leading up to the stay itself. And I think inevitably I understand that most hospitality people want to focus on, okay, I've got the guest. What's their stay going to be like? Is my property up to scratch? Does it have correct cleaning? Are all things working? All of this kind of stuff. But for me, the idea of hospitality is about making a guest feel comfortable and being welcoming and inviting. And that has to start immediately after I've booked. And it's not just a warm, sort of fuzzy, feeling, because a lot of people might say, well, what's the point? I've taken the reservation, they're coming to stay with me, so I'm going to focus all my attention on that stay. What's the point of this bit in the middle? And for me, the point about the bit in the middle is to reduce the number of questions that your guest is asking you. So typically, my experience has been I get a booking confirmation email, and then it's like a ghost town. It's like the tumbleweed, until that moment where I'm about to come and stay with you, and I might get another email saying something about how to find us or whatever. But as a guest, I've got that whole period where there's two things. One is I'm a little bit anxious because I haven't heard anything, so I'm wondering who is it that I've booked with, and I know in this current climate there might be a little bit of I'm not that sure I want to continue with my booking. Like, I've got a bit of buyer's remorse, and that could be fueled by not having enough information or touch points from the person I'm staying with. So you need to build that level of trust. So that's one aspect of it, that kind of calming the guests down, I would say. And the second aspect is simply, I think there's three probably. The second aspect is really reducing the number of questions. So there's the element of calming the guests down, make sure they're happy with what they've booked, and they don't get the buyer's remorse. The second is stopping the myriad questions. And I'm sure everybody faces this. There will be the same questions that are asked over and over again. Those are the sort of things that'd be really, really good to include somewhere in the journey prior to arrival. And the third thing is, I'm also a captive audience here, in the sense that I've booked with you. I'm ready to hear about other things that you might want to tell me. And that could be things you want to sell me. It could be other things that I could see and do in the area that you're not trying to sell me, but you're just equipping me with as a good hospitality professional. And where I think it really kicks in this current climate, where there is some, uncertainty, I think there could also be the emphasis on the extra things that you provide as a host or as a accommodation operator, which gives me the sense as a guest that I'm getting something extra and something special for that money that I've parted with. So that's my version of onboarding. It really is that calm the anxiety, stop the myriad questions, and protect the booking for yourself.
Absolutely. And it's quite interesting because so many people in the glamping and unique holiday rental world, they so often haven't even heard of the term onboarding. So maybe they're doing it already and they just haven't heard of the term, but it's a really interesting term. And as you said, there's so many other things to get on with on the day-to-day for hosts and hospitality business owners. And, no more so than in glamping, when they've got all the land management and they often have animals and all kinds of other elements, which someone who hasn't just a usual rental doesn't actually have those other additional elements. So they have even more challenges. So I suppose any way that this can be automated is going to make it so much better for the guest, who will feel reassured. And as we know, the brain works when we're looking forward to something, we start enjoying it, even though we're actually not, taking that holiday, we enjoy it beforehand. So they start enjoying their holiday way before they actually come and stay with the host. And so I think that's really important too, because I can hear almost the voices of all the different people that I support going, oh, it's not giving us another thing to do, are you? It's like, we've got enough on, we don't need any more. I suppose that's key, isn't it? To be able to say, this doesn't have to be something that you do time and time again. You just have to use the right tools and set something up and let it run automatically in the background. Do you have any examples of hosts that have done that and how they've done that?
Yes, absolutely. It's a very good point. It's one that I sometimes overlook when I say what I've just said, is that very often people are busy, and the thought of doing something extra is just a complete turn off. So I've got this long list of 500 other things to do. You want me to do another one? No. However, it's not like you have to do this for every single guest. So you mentioned it there. You've got to automate it, and that word itself can feel very, I've got to automate something. That word in itself is pretty loaded in terms of work to be done. However, it can be very simple. So what we're not talking about here is, every single guest, you have to think about, oh, I've got to call them and I've got to write this message and I've got to send this information. It's not like that at all, and it shouldn't be. And if you're in that camp, you need to get out of that camp, because that's not the way to keep yourself sane at all. And so hopefully not many people are. So the thing of automating, yes, there's a little bit of work in setting up, but it's that bit of work which frees you, because from then on it's autopilot. I liken it very much to our business, where we have lots of customers who come to our website and they used to ask us loads of questions. What does it do? How does it do it? What about this? What about that? And we implemented a few years ago an article system in the help center. But by experience, I generally hate those kind of things, because you can never really find the answer you want. So we tried to make ours much more user-friendly, much easier to find the answers you want. And it was a big endeavor to get that set up. But once we got it set up, not only do we get fewer questions ourselves, but anytime a question comes in that we know is answered by an article, we can just reply with a link to that article instead of having to type it all out again. And that's my version of, in my own world as a software provider, how we overcome that. Oh, I've got to automate something. Why? Yes, there's a bit of work. Once you've done it, it's lovely. And so I would say in this world, keep it simple. There are people who have 14 or 15 different communications that go out post-booking and pre-arrival, and even during stay. You can get to that stage in time, but that's not where you need to be straight away. So I would say, what is it you need to tell the guest which will achieve those three things that I said just now? So it's calming the anxiety of the guest, it's reducing the number of questions, and it's protecting the booking. What you could do is then structure your emails or automated text messages, because that exists too in our product, to automate that process. So you might set up, let's just say 4 or 5 templates. Maybe first one goes after I've booked, and that could be going from your booking system already, for example. So you may not need to do that one. But then that tumbleweed time, that ghost town time, fill it with those 3 or 4 other messages, and think about when they should go. So I'm always a bit of a fan of the more cutting down the number of questions, one going out maybe a week prior, so much closer to the stay, and maybe even another 48 hours or 24 hours prior. But the ones in between, about kind of relaxing the guest, taking away that buyer's remorse, letting them know all the great things to see and do in the area, maybe upselling them something, showing them the added value of staying with you. Drop a few of those in throughout that stay cycle. And all you're doing, and I can give you the example of the way you do it in TouchStay, but I'm sure every other system that your community may be using has a similar version. You just simply open it up and you create a series of templates, and you time those templates. So you say, the one that I want to send the guest prior to arrival about the important things they need to prepare, how to find us, where to park, all that sort of stuff. I'm going to send it 1 week prior. So I create my template, I write in the text, I write in the message, and I set it to go out 1 week prior. And then I might do another one, a shortened version of the same thing that goes out 24 hours or 48 hours prior. So it's really punchy. Then I go backwards and say, what else in between that stay, that nice fluffy stuff that I said, and create a couple of emails that go maybe 1 month prior or 6 weeks prior, whatever it is. Do that, set that template. Then when your guest, when you get a guest booking, all you do is you activate that sequence of things you've set up. So you're not doing a thing, right? You're just saying, I've got a booking. It's going to follow that exact sequence. And that little bit of upfront work is no more than 5 maybe messages that you have to write in the template. Once you're done, you're done. Like, the system takes care of it. And the trick with all of those messages is not to open it up and think, my goodness, what am I going to write? I need to make it so, it's like you suddenly become a bit paralyzed. It should be your style, and it should be the way that you've written on your website or the way you've branded yourself on your website. Are you playful and easygoing? Are you sort of more corporate and professional or whatever? And just write like with your natural style. And it can be really friendly and really informal. And I actually think those are the better emails. Not so much so you're flippant and you're glib and stuff like, but but we all want to know we're staying. It's hospitality. We want to know we're staying with somebody who's normal on the other end of the screen. And if you put that in your email, then the sequence of things that are going to your guest are going to feel like they've come from you, and they're going to have that personal touch, and they're much more likely to get acted on and read than something which you sort of, I must write it in this way, and it might, like, no, just do it in your own way. The only thing I would say is there must be something in it for the guest. In any of these messages, it's got to be about what's in it for the guest, because none of us open up emails or read stuff unless it's either really important and mission critical, like pay the tax bill or pay the water bill or whatever, or there's something in it for us. It's like, oh, that's interesting. I can relate to that. I like that. That's my kind of thing. So I would definitely make those communications about what's in it for the guest, and really make them deliberately short and succinct. So no long verbose, and this gets back to how quickly it's going to get done. It can be really easy by the fact that you've really got to make them quite concise. And I'm a fan of bullets. So if you're going to say, the 1 7 days prior, for example, it might be, dear Sarah, we're really excited that you're about to come and stay with us. I hope you are too. Maybe a smiley face. I don't know. That's the kind of thing, that informality. Because I read it and then I'm like, I feel like I'm seeing a person. And then I might say, it's really the following things, and bullet. So not write them all out, just bullet. And those bullets would be the things that you get asked the most often. Where do I park? What do I need to bring? Particularly in the glamping world, like what do I need to pack? Bullet. And then you don't need to answer all those questions there. You can just say what this email is about, what to pack, where to find us, those things. And then underneath it, just say, for all the answers to these questions, click this link. And it'll be the link to, in our case, the Touch Day guidebook, where all this information is answered, but it could be your PDF that you send them, or your Word doc. So don't ram all that into the email, but just put it, like, surface it there and set the scene. And then they're much more likely to open and read and act on the things that you want them to. So that's the way I would approach that. I think that answered your question, which was that fear of one more thing to do. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think as well, that fear of, people see this as a huge barrier. It's like a hill. It's a really steep hill that they have to overcome. But I kind of put it into the sense of, well, if you don't do it, then it's going to be a constant climb. It may not be as steep, but there's a constant climb of things that you have to do, because you're going to have to send out that email to that guest who's just booked, and it's going to have this information, or they're going to phone up and ask you all these questions because they don't have them. It hasn't been sent automatically. So it's going to be a constant thing, a list of things to do, rather than a quick spike in activity as you get those things done, and then you're free afterwards. And it's remembering that freedom that you will have afterwards, and the release of not having those things to do. And it really does help to release the stress for hosts who have 1,000,001 things to do. It's a really good way of freeing them up. So I always explain to people that never bite off more than you can chew. And you were saying that, keep it short, keep it sweet, doesn't need to be long. It can just be a paragraph, maybe 2 paragraphs, and keep it really bullet pointy, and make it evergreen, so that it's not going to age. So don't talk about Easter. Easter's coming up or whatever. Don't put any dates in it. Just make it evergreen, so it can be sent out for the next 10 years even, and you don't have to look at it unless you have time and you want to review it. But one of the things that I've spoken often to people I support about is about how they can use tools like that, the automation particularly, to streamline the guest experience, but also to raise additional income for them. Is there a way that you've seen that done quite well in the industry?
Yes, I will say that the approaches people take are quite wide and varied, but it depends what sort of things that you're selling, or what things you'd like to make a little bit of extra for. So at a very basic level, you could have links that go out to a place where a guest can buy something. So if you've got a local attraction that you work with, that attraction may often give referral links to you, and so you could include your referral link in there, and that would generate you some commission off people booking popular attractions in your area. That's a really easy way to do it. So just a referral link. The other way I've seen people do it is to create forms. So something like a Google Forms is a really, really simple way of doing this. And you just list on there some of the things that your guest can buy ahead of their arrival. So maybe it's a grocery delivery, maybe it's maybe you provide breakfast and you want to know what they would like to be stocked for the breakfast, for which they pay a little bit extra perhaps. And that Google form is a nice way of collecting that information, and it enables you to then charge later, or contact the guest and say, I've received your form. Thank you very much. We're going to take care of that for you. How would you like to pay? So that's kind of the less sort of instant checkout version. And then the next step is to go a step further than that. You could use a form building service that has a payment gateway embedded in it. So I fill in my form, but then I also take payment from the guest at that time. And virtually everybody is taking money now for their stay, so they've probably got some kind of preferred payment, whether it's Stripe or it's PayPal or whatever it is. You can just put that, these form building services allow you to put your preferred payment method and put your PayPal address or your Stripe details, and it will settle it into your account for you. One of the services I like for that is called Jotform, Jotform, Jotform. Really simple. Those are the easy. They're the order of ease. So referral link, nice and easy. Form gathering, take payment later. That's a nice one. And then the whole integrated service where I build a form and I have my payment gateway as well. And I've seen people doing a lot of that during the pandemic, especially where they've needed to gather information in a remote way, and creating a form to do that, and then off the back of that form being able to charge that guest for that service that they've offered.
It's great to hear that it can be done. And I'd heard of Jotform. I think it was you who mentioned it to me before, and it's great to have a tool like that which allows the guest to the host to stay in control of the guest booking, because so often the host will go through an online travel agent and gain the booking there. Isn't always the best, I have to say. And that's another discussion for another day, especially at the moment. Things are really kicking off with that at the moment. However, it allows them, because so often people say to me, well, I can't actually sell those things because I've taken the booking through the OTA. And it's about having a system that allows the host to bypass that. So it's really interesting that that's available, and people can make the most of that. And it means as well that rather than just relying on the original booking as their income, they can add extra bits on top. And I'm talking about things like pizza parties, booking an event, booking a local restaurant, booking some bikes, hiring some bikes and some other equipment, things like that. So many different things that hosts can do, and they can generate either a referral income, the commission income, a finder's fee, as it were, or they can actually do it direct themselves and have 100% of the income there. And that's particularly important when we are seeing such a pressure on all businesses at the moment because of the state of the economy and things like that. And again, that's another discussion for another day. So many big discussions. But there are also, and this is quite interesting, when you have people who have maybe just set up their business and they are looking to make a reputation for themselves in the local community. And so they're wanting to support the local community in different ways. They can do that through these kinds of things too. Have you seen any examples in your time in this industry and working with so many hosts where people have used these kind of automations to support their local community?
100%, yes. Not many people are doing it, which I think is a pity, because the number of guests that will relate to, will feel enthused by, and will be more connected to you, is when they see that you're doing something wider than just running your business. And that doesn't mean that they want you to be like active on tons of boards, but they just want to hear about, are you supporting a local charity? Are you working with a local organization? Are you planting trees on, for each booking? Various things like this day and age are really, really important to guests. When we have a choice of where to stay, it's very often about the other things that we feel benefit us from staying with that person. And this is a really good example. Booking.com do a regular travel survey, and the one they did fairly recently showed that almost 8 out of 10 guests would book a place that had some kind of sustainability initiative over another place. And I think that's really, really powerful from somebody like Booking.com, who, they surveyed, tens of thousands of people. And we just know it intuitively, don't we? We just know that this kind of, and it's not about necessarily tree planting, it's just about sustainability that could be ecologically oriented, but it could be very social oriented as well. And if we can see that is something that the person we're staying with is actively embraced, then it's a real strong driver for us to book through them, but also then to feel a bit more connected to them as well. So the sorts of things that people are doing, Tyann, who works for us, she runs properties in the US. She works with a local volunteer organization that helps kids. So she talks about that. We have one lady who has a place in Italy. She's very environmentally focused. She's talking about all the environmental activities that she does. By default, in a Touch Day guidebook template, you do get a making a difference section. And within that making a difference section, if you can't think of anything that you're doing or that you want to talk about, you can adopt what we're doing. So you can include that in the guidebook, which is tree planting. So all we're doing is saying we, as a business, offset our carbon by planting trees, but we're also surfacing that in the guidebook for anyone else who wants to do something but doesn't have the time nor idea to adopt that. And therefore all their guests will see a tree planting program, and their guests can contribute to that if they want to, but it's very subtle, it's very soft. It's not, you must do this. We had somebody who was renovating some of their properties recently and were donating the old property to local charities, the furniture, etc. And again, that's something to talk about. This shouldn't be something that you do operationally behind the scenes and you think, well, my guests don't need to know about that. I think it's part of a really strong story that you've thought more about the community and your impact on the community. And the bit that the bigger picture in all of this, of course, is that there's so much attention on the accommodation industry being an evil in communities, that anywhere that you can be part of the narrative, which is a more positive story, and the things that your business does bring to the local economy has to be worth doing. Because if we don't talk about those positive aspects, then we let the narrative be about the negatives of having a villa in a city, or using this land for glamping when it could be used for something else. And I think it's really important to get on the front foot and take ownership of that. And again, it's something that would really therefore resonate as well with guests.
Absolutely. But it can also go both ways, can't it? So not only are you supporting your local community, maybe sharing events that are going on and things that the local community will want more visitors to attend, you help promote it. That's also going to be beneficial for you as a business, because that event could attract more stays, more bookings and things. So it really does work both ways. And I love that. And particularly because during the pandemic, one of the biggest things that came out as a result of that was the message from customers, consumers, to say, we've lost a lot of trust actually in businesses. We need to have that rebuilt. And so this is a way of doing that, to work with the community to help rebuild the trust that exists between the consumer and the business. And again, that was all in surveys that was done during that time, because so many people, so many consumers got let down by the business. Lots of cancellations, non-refunds. It didn't happen in my world, thankfully, that I'm aware of, in the glamping and unique holiday rental world, but there was a lot of it that did go on. And so people did get stung. Mm-hmm. And so generating and building that trust is great. And this is what I love about Touch Day, that people are able, or hosts are able to share their personality and really connect within that digital guest book, and really helps to encourage people to think about coming back again, because they've generated that really tight, nice connection with the host. So is there anything that you've seen that people are using for the guest farewell process? A lot of people will just say goodbye to their guests, hope you had a great time. That's it. They don't actually follow up with anything else. Is that something that you've seen done particularly well?
Yeah, it's a really important part, isn't it? It is really the opposite of the first part, which is you're welcoming guests. Now you're saying goodbye to the guests, but both of them are an important part in that relationship. You know, if you've had friends and family staying with you, you don't kind of just go, well, there's the door, off you go. You know, you do a nice farewell. Maybe you plan next time you're going to see them. And I think that same thing should exist in the hospitality world. So of course, on the day of departure, there is, please do the following things, very functional stuff. And that's not to be ignored either, because guests are really, really frantic on that last day, aren't they? I must leave by 10 to check out, or 11 to check out. I've got a long drive ahead of me, or I've got to get a plane back home, or whatever. It's a bit frantic. Kids have dropped loads of stuff on the floor, and you're trying to make sure you've got everything, you're not leaving anything behind. So I think in that scenario, I definitely would say prior to the departure, so maybe the last day of the stay, maybe there's one of these automated communications I said is triggered. So you're not yourself, but the system is doing it for you, and it will say, dear Sarah, hope you've had a lovely stay with us. Sorry, it's the last day tomorrow. We want to make it nice and stress-free for you. Please remember to do the following things, bullet, whatever. But then that's not the end. So it's not close the door, bye-bye, Sarah. It's recognizing you've done all this work during the build up to the stay and the stay itself, and you've won the trust of Sarah. So why would you not try to have an ongoing relationship? So for that reason, I would suggest definitely, first thing, and I'm sure everyone's doing this, is asking for a review to be left. And again, that could be automated. But that feels a bit sort of what's in it for me too. So I would be tempted to phrase that as they are helping future guests by leaving a review, and they are helping you to identify the things that maybe didn't go so well, so you can fix them for the next guest. That kind of slant on the request. But I would then try, and not all guests will want to do this, but if they've had a good experience and they really love the place, and you feel like it's a repeat kind of business, like you're in the location where people may come back, then you want to get them onto your newsletter. So definitely asking them to either for permission to add them, and then once you've added them, maybe there's a double opt-in, there probably should be, where once you've added them to your email system, it pings them an email saying you've been added. Are you okay with this? Let them click yes to opt in, because I think that's the important bit as well. Sometimes I think we think we've grabbed the email, the guest's all right with that, we're allowed to use it. I think it's really important in that whole trust that you've created to do that the right way too. And yes, you may not get as many people confirming to join the list, but those that you do get are really, really kind of embedded and baked into that. So that can be a simple, like I said, would you mind us adding you to your email? And yes, please. Then you add them and then give them the option to double opt in. And you can use MailChimp for that, or there are a bunch of other email programs, but MailChimp's nice and simple. But I would also then utilize that as a way to actively stay in touch. So you've got the email and they've agreed to hear more from you. What are you going to do? And I would do that in an automated way as well. But also in those quieter periods. So maybe at the end of the season, you can do a thank you. It's been a really busy season. This is what's happened on the farm. We've had lots of people, but tell a bit of a story about it so it reminds them, keep them updated. It doesn't have to do anything more than that. And then through the year, everyone can get a bit creative. There are certain moments throughout the year where you could sequence things that late availability or special occasions or special events that are happening in the area that people might want to travel for. All that kind of stuff. And the other thing is I know these are lots of things to do. You don't have to do them all, but you might want to just do them gradually over time or pick one. But encourage them to also talk to you and share stuff on your own social media platforms. Give them the right hashtag that you want them to use, for example. Provide them links to where they go and do this. Encourage them maybe to leave their favorite photo of their stay or a fun experience they had. Make it a bit more interesting. So guests, they don't just get, I was going to click on their Instagram link and have a look. It could be that they're encouraged to do something, that, and as a guest, if I've had a really fun experience, or I'm more likely if I've been pitched it that way to go and share the photo, and then that creates you a bank of nice user stories from previous days. So those are the sort of things that I would do, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, it does. And I think as well, as we were talking about the onboarding process, get them excited about their visit, get them really thinking about it before they come to you, and then that really enhances their stay. And that farewell, get them kind of thinking, oh, that was nice, I've had such a great time, I could definitely go back there again. And that's in the guest farewell, isn't it? And as long as we know how to do that as individuals, even if we're not great at writing emails or writing text, we all know how good it feels when people do it well for us. So we just have to duplicate that. And all of those tips there are really helpful. Thank you so much, Andy. And yeah, I think for anybody, because we've been talking constantly about Touch Day and about the fact that it's a digital guest book, but for anybody who hasn't used that kind of thing before, just in a very quick nutshell, sum up how it can be used by what it looks like for guests exactly and how it works.
I could very quickly show it on the screen, Sarah, if you think that would be helpful.
Absolutely.
It won't take too long, but it will at least show people in a nutshell what it does.
So for anyone listening, this will be shared on my YouTube channel, which is YouTube Inspired Camping.
Okay, good point, because people who are listening won't be able to necessarily see. But for those of you who can see, you can probably see my screen right now. And if I went to our website, touchday.com, do you see it okay, Sarah?
Yes, perfect.
Maybe if I went to the top one, which says guidebooks. By the way, when I've put my phone on the screen here, it's it's a little bit pixelated, but that's because I'm casting my screen to the phone. The reality is it won't be like that. If I go down and have a look I might look at the Glamp sites one. I think we've got a few examples of glamping operators that are using us. So let's scroll down here. So for example, we could click on this one. So this is what happens. So this is what you have. This is a Touch Day guide. So it's loading the content on the screen. This is who I'm staying with. You see a prompt at the top of the screen that says you can add it to your home screen for faster access. So that's an optional prompt for the guest. They can X out, or if they press that, it will say that it's about to install this guidebook on my phone, and I'm going to accept that. And it says that it's adding it. If I come out of my screen now and go back to my homepage, see it says it's added it, and there it is at the top left, that one there. So now as a guest, I can just click on that and it will load up the guidebook automatically for me. If I didn't go through that process, I could still view it as a mobile tool. So this is somebody in Australia. If I click get started, it's just got very simple things like, the welcome. So a little welcome video, it looks like here from them that they've put on the page, followed by a bunch of stuff. And then practical things like, tent life here, for example, what it's like, welcome to the bush, water and solar power. So it's telling them about drinking water, sanitary items, solar power, etc. What's in the tents. So here's one of them, and a bunch of things that are in the tents. Can't read it so well because of as I said, the casting of the phone to the screen sort of pixelating things. But then there's a map page here where I can see where it is I'm staying. And if I click that, it will allow me to get directions to that place. And if I click get directions, it would open up Google Maps, where clearly from my location to Australia is not going to work. So that was a dumb example, but your guests would be using this when they're in the same place as you. What else have we got? Bunch of other stuff, but that's broadly what it looks like. If I went back one step to this one up here, this is a UK one, Devon's Dens, who I think you probably know, Sarah.
I do know Jo very well. She was on the podcast. Yeah, she's fantastic.
So I won't add this one to my phone. I'll just press the X button on the left. When I do that, you'll see it does exactly the same thing, but now I'm viewing it as a mobile website instead of as an app, but it's exactly the same. So Jo's put loads of things in hers. So even dog-friendly stuff, for example, there. So talking about dogs and essential information, if you bring your dog, it's all really easily digestible as a guest. Look here on this one down here. So bottom left, so long, farewell. So this is the farewell. So a thank you. That's an important one to start with. Just acknowledgement before you start asking for anything is a thank you. But then checkout times and processes. So here's the simple checklist of things I want you to do when you leave, strip beds, etc. Social media pages. So she's linked out to her different pages here. She hasn't put a newsletter here, so maybe she doesn't have one, or maybe she does that in a different way. But they're all examples of what you can do to engage the guest. And even bottom right, book again. So you can link out to your website. So yeah, that's broadly what it does in a nutshell. There's tons more I could tell you, but
yes,
you did say in a nutshell. So I'm
in a nutshell, absolutely. Well, I know that, and this is the reason partly that I have you as a guest. Not only do you share amazingly interesting things, but I've had so many people say such great things about that app that you provide. So and so that's great, because actually what you're doing is you're taking a lot of the effort from the host so that they can focus on other things, and particularly around when things are changing so much with terms and conditions, the COVID restrictions, people need to get their own holiday insurance cover and things like that. It's making it really clear. It's giving people all the information they need to know, so you don't have to keep saying that to people. And that just really does help reassure everybody that the guest is protected, the host understands that they know they're protected in the right way, and they're not just assuming that they'll be protected in a different way. So all of these things at the moment, when there's so many challenges, it's really great to have something that makes it a bit easier. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast again, Andy. We were talking before about the industry, about the economy, about things going on at the moment. And I definitely think from what we were sharing there that there's going to be more room for another chat. So maybe we'll schedule that in the future. But it's been incredibly interesting speaking to you again. Thank you so much for dedicating your time to my listeners.
Thank you for having me, Sarah. I've really enjoyed it, and would absolutely love to talk about stuff other than guest communication too, because I think the stuff that's going on in everyday life and economies and how that impacts on business is equally important at the moment. So I'm available whenever you would like me back.
Brilliant. Well, all the links will be in the show notes and everything else that people can access really easily. So there'll be episode 52. So as always, that's inspiredcamping.com/052. We'll take you directly to the notes, or on the platform you're listening to, that will also be just below the audio, and you'll be able to see the links in there. But also, if you're watching this on YouTube, then I'll include all the links there. So really great to see you again, Andy, and take care, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks. See ya. Bye.
Bye.